In today's video, I will be picking up where I left off on the post and beam foundation restoration project here at my cabin in the woods in the Pacific Northwest. The next step is mixing and pouring concrete for the second row of footings underneath the cabin. Unlike the first row that supports the sill beams along the back wall, these footings were directly underneath the cabin, which added an extra challenge as I was very limited on headspace to work with. I learned a lot, and I'll be applying what I learned on the next step in this project the same way I try every time I do something I've never done before. With that context out of the way, let's start this video where we left off last time, completing the gravel base underneath each concrete form. What are you doing, Mia? One down, a lot more to go. All right, we got all the gravel work done. That wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, crawling around underneath there. Definitely not ideal for comfort, but I made it through. I'm alive. I'll show you some closer, more detailed footage of what everything looks like down there. Again, to clarify how I did that, I just set up the forms on each end first, ran a string line between them, ran the long tape measure, and I used the string and the tape measure to make sure each form was lined up in a straight line. 32 feet, that makes sense. And that it fell at the proper measurement so that each post is going to be every 4 feet, and that will support the 8-foot long beams, just like I did along the back side of the cabin. almost got through that whole thing with 2 batteries. Just got to keep doing that on down the line and finish the rest of these dobbies and rebar. Okay, after this, we're ready to pour the concrete in here. I guess I can get this tape and the string out of the way after this too. Give me a clear path to drag these buckets down when they're full of concrete. We'll see how it goes. I don't know, it's gonna be a lot more difficult than those ones were because we're underneath the cabin and we got cabin right above us. That's the floor. I've had this scrap sheet of OSB that I got from Home Depot for a while. It's one of those ones that they paint with purple that you get at like a 70% discount. It had a little bit of damage to it, but it's going to work perfect for what I'm using it for, which is just a hard, flat surface that I can use to drag my 5-gallon bucket that I'm going to put the wet concrete in so I can get it to each form underneath the cabin. There are many ways to possibly do this. You can build your own custom chute, so you just dump it from the outside and it runs down the chute, goes into your form. I thought about doing all that stuff, but the way that I'm going to do it is the most straightforward that I could think of. Probably going to involve a little bit more muscle. Who knows? Maybe once I do the next row, I'll come up with something different, but we'll see how this goes. With all that being said, let's mix some concrete. I'm gonna make a mark on my bucket later, but for this first one, I'm gonna do that first. That looks just about right to me. I want it more wet than that. I'm stopping to eat lunch. I got concrete in one of those forms. It's going pretty good so far. By the time I finish the next one, I'll have my system down. I think it's all gonna go pretty well. This thing is definitely a lot easier than mixing it by hand like I did last time. I tried reading the bag and using the recommended amount of water. It said 1/2 gallon per 60-pound bag of concrete, but that ratio didn't seem right. So I just decided to eyeball it after that. That's working, so it'll all be good. Now that I finished pouring the concrete in this form, that one is ready to brush and edge. I've got 5 of these forms filled with concrete now, and it just hit me that I have that metal tray inside the generator box, and that works really well for sliding the bucket full of concrete on the plywood that I have laid down on the dirt. Wish I would have thought of that earlier, but I can still use it on the final 4 that I still have left to do. got the form stripped from the first one, and it looks really, really good. I'm happy with this. By the way, in the footage of the day that I was pouring this, you may have noticed that she just disappeared at some point. That's because I put her in the house because she rubbed her whole body against my concrete bucket, and I had to stop and I had to clean it off for her because it was gonna dry. And I was like, you know what, this is just gonna be a mess. Disaster waiting to happen. She was pretty tired anyways. I just put her inside and she slept for like 4 hours. But now that it's all dry, she can be out here with me and we can strip the rest of these forms. We can strip them. Let's strip them. All right, everybody, we did it. One step closer to completing the foundation restoration here at the cabin. I'll show you some footage that I recorded of what it looks like underneath there now. Each one of those footings ended up lining up pretty well with each other. I mean, they should. I used the string, but I'm always nervous. Along the back, those are all almost exactly level with each other. I used the laser to get those exactly the same, or as close to exactly the same as I could, because of the skirting that's eventually going to go back there. Directly underneath the cabin, the ground is not flat at all. It actually kind of all slopes towards the back. I talked about that in a previous video, why I wanted to raise the grade, why I spent so much time adding rock. I mentioned earlier in the video, some people, like, I think the average person that has experience doing these types of things would think like, dude, you are crazy. Like, that's so much work, putting the concrete in a bucket and then dragging it on top of, like, the tray definitely made it so much easier. Once I put it on the tray and like drag, I think that's kind of how I'm going to do all of it, because this row, actually, I have the most space to work with. I think it's 24 inches from the floor to the dirt right now underneath there, but it gets shallower as you move towards the front of the cabin. So it's going to get more shallow and more difficult. So if I was going to do any type of chute construction, like a custom thing where I tip the concrete mixer into a chute that the concrete runs down and then into the form, right now would have been the time to do that. But it's just like, dude, first of all, I got to construct something that's going to work, hopefully. So I got to invest in time and materials to do that. And then let's say I do something that works. Then I've just got this contraption that I bought fasteners for and just like rigged up this thing. Then it's just like these wasted scrap materials that I have to tear apart and then throw away because they're going to be soaked in concrete. And it's just like, I could do all that, or I could do the thing that I did, which is dump concrete in a bucket and pour it in there. So it was one day of my life. I got it all done. I mixed it, poured it, filled the forms. And yeah, it was one really hard day. I was very tired, exhausted. It took me at least like 2 days to recover from that day. But then it was over, and now I'm fine and I'm not dead. And it's all good. I got the concrete done. And so that's the way I'm thinking about this going forward. Like the prep work, now that I know how to prep the ground, I've got the forms already made. Although I think I've used those forms. That's the third time I've used them now. I think I might get one more use after this, and then I'm going to have to make new forms, because you can only scrape the concrete off so many times. Like, it's just, they're getting really worn out and the screw holes are like worn out. So I think those form boards are going to be done after the next time that I use them. Then I'll have to create more forms. So that'll take some time. But generally speaking, it'll take 2 days to prep a row for concrete and then 1 day to mix and pour. So 3 days for each row. I think I have 5 rows left. On the next one, I got more work to do because there's some wiring that I got to deal with, because it's not as simple as just removing the post. I got to remove the wiring first that's fastened to not the post, but the beam. It's just, there's a lot. I should stop talking now. That's a wrap, folks. Appreciate you checking it out. Come here, Mia. You want to say bye? You want to say bye? You're not supposed to jump up, but you can jump up now. Come here. Oh, bump your head. All right, say bye. Bye. See you on the next one. Thanks for checking it out. See ya.